What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All In with Nate. Of course, we were going to get on here and talk about the Falcons nearly dramatic come from behind win against the Rams. But before we get into that, I got my boy Mike back on here with me. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, everybody? We just witnessed a really wild game. Fell short, but hey, you gotta take those sometimes. But I'm proud of the way we fought.
Yes, sir. Because I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I almost came on here early because it was at the time it was 28-3. I said we're not coming back. In my mind, I'm like, we're not coming back. We're not gonna make this game at all. But credit to the Falcons for pulling it together and started making it a ball game. But I don't think I looked at a legit shot of us coming back to win the game until after that block punt. When that block punt happened, I'm like, we might have a shot. But then the defense came up with a big stop on third down and made it. They put us back in position. But one thing that I hate is that, number one, that second down triple option play call is one I'm sure Arthur Smith is going to want back because they read that play to perfection. And I also want to get this off here to all you that's tuned in to the stream. I think it's time to give Desmond Ridder a chance because the Rams, as well as, I'm going to put it to you like this. What we have saw in the last 2 weeks is that the Atlanta Falcons have more talent than we thought. We actually have more talent than we thought. Drake London is the real deal. I was tough on him as I didn't think that we should have picked him at 8. But looking at him now, Drake London is an incredible route running receiver. I like him. I don't think Arthur Smith gets Kyle Pitts involved in this offense enough. Maybe that'll change once you give Desmond Ridder a shot to play at quarterback. But I think the Falcons are a lot better than we thought they would be. They're 0-2. You have to take what it is because this is still technically a rebuild. However, we've seen them compete. This team could have been potentially 2-0 right now, the way they've played. They gave the Saints a run of their money for 3.5 quarters, and they blew it at the end. And then they fought back and was within the 20 with a shot to beat the Rams today. So it got to give you some type of confidence for the organization going forward. However, there still is things that need to be worked on, but I'm going to let Mike touch on it real quick. What was your initial thoughts with the game ending?
We all know we let one slip away last week. And initially, I felt like we had a chance to catch the Rams slipping. But as we saw the previous Thursday, they got upset. Well, not really upset. That was I want to say the Bills might have been favored in that game. But, as a Super Bowl champion, you expect to come in and win that first game, regardless of your opponent. And they didn't play well. So I was like, we might get the angry Rams instead of the Rams that came in and won week 1, and we might have caught them slipping. We didn't get that Rams today. They came in. You saw that they were focused. They paid attention to detail during practice the entire week, and they executed. I don't think the Falcons played terrible that first half. I just think the Rams played exceptional football. They didn't make any mistakes. Matthew Stafford was on. He couldn't miss. Hey, that's football. But I'm proud of the way they fought. I don't like that before that last drive, that one pass or a pass attempt that we had. I thought we still had some time. I didn't like throwing a jump ball to Brian Edwards. Like Nate said, give it to your playmakers. Kyle Pitts, Drake London. No disrespect to Brian Edwards, but I don't want to see him going up for a jump ball with a top 5, 6, 7 corner in the NFL. I'm sorry. I don't want to see that. And I think, they got a little desperate because we got behind the chains like third and long, very long. And I think Marcus Mariota, he made a poor decision. I'm always going to go down with my best players. I would have gone with Drake or Kyle Pitts. That was a little disappointing. It kind of like messed up the entire momentum, but hey, you gotta take what you get, and that's the decision he made, and we gotta live with it now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with what you're saying. Let me get some of these comments real quick. What's going on, man? He said, we nearly knocked off the champs. He said, I'm gonna need Arthur's big stop. So just get yes, that's another gripe I have with the Falcons at this moment is the coaching. It's really unfortunate that the Falcons have to deal with this issue right here because, to be honest, we were in position to win both ball games down the stretch in last week here at home against the Saints, even with them coming back, and this week against the Rams. And to me, again, that second down play call was absolutely awful to run a triple option, which you have Aaron Donald that can destroy your backfield. We do not have that good of an offensive line just yet to sit here and come out with those type of plays. And that was just a wasted play because, again, you had the momentum on your side at the 23, and now you're having to force the ball to try to get him a first down, which also, to me, the one time, and this could also be on a bit on Mariota, one time that you should have tried to take a conservative approach and get me 5 or 6 yards to make it a 4th and 7 and live with it that way. You tried to go for a jump ball, as Mike mentioned, to Brian Edwards. This is no jab at him, but I'm not giving Brian Edwards the jump ball in the end zone to try to take the lead against the defending Super Bowl champions when I drafted Drake London number 4. When I drafted I drafted Kyle Pitts number 4 last year and Drake London number 8 this year. I had that number spit, so excuse me.
Being covered by Jalen Ramsey. He got most.
Yes. Yeah. That was an incredible play because, to be honest, most corners will probably not make that play. So that's just a credit to Jalen Ramsey for closing the game out because I don't know how the Rams would have lived this one down had they lost this game after being up 28-3 and going to 0-2 at home. So I don't know how they would have lived that one down. Let's see me hit some of these other comments. What's going on, Q? He said, credit to everyone except Mariota. I have a gripe. And I was vocal about it. If you're my Facebook friend, you definitely saw me be very vocal about the Falcons needing to give Desmond Ridder a chance within the next week or two, because my problem with Marcus Mariota is this. This is the second week in a row I can say, if Mariota stays in that pocket, you can possibly win that ball game. But he's run first, throw later. You have 2 incredible talents at receiver, 2 young, big-time guys. If you're trying to win if you're trying to win the quarterback job and redeem your career and not have the Falcons say, let's give Ridder a chance or let's go draft a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud in the first round next year, this is your chance to prove that. And honestly, you haven't. You have shown flashes of you being a solid starting quarterback. You have not shown me a consistent 60 minutes to where we can win the game on your arm, and you are a former number 1 pick. So I have an issue with you not being able to make that key play to win the ball game. But also, let's even go as far as saying this. If Mariota had, of course, the interception before the half that ended up turning into a Cooper Kupp touchdown was a tip off of Cordero Patterson's hands. However, all 3 passes on that drive there, which was in the first half, was overthrew Kyle Pitts, overthrew another receiver, and then he misfires a bad pass that turned into a pick that turned into it could have been 14-6 at halftime. Looking at the score now, imagine if it was 14-6 at the half, what the final score ended up being. You now could have been kicking for a game-tying field goal, and we possibly could still be watching this game right now. But those are the decisions that happen when you don't make the smart decisions of staying in that pocket to be a quarterback. How you feel about that comment?
I'm going to take the opposite spectrum of this. We know who Marcus Mariota is. We know what type of plays he can make and what type of plays he can't make. And honestly, he made some mistakes. He missed some throws. But outside of that pass to Cordero, you are absolutely correct about that drive. Leading up to that pass, he missed throws terribly. But that Cordero pass that led to an interception and later a touchdown, That was a good ball. Cordero, for some reason, attempted to catch it with one hand, and I don't know what was going through his mind there, but that ball was on Cordero. Regardless of that fact, though, if you take that pass out of the equation, Mariota completed 68% of his passes. He missed pass? Yes, he missed passes. We didn't throw the ball down the field as much, but when we did, we had big plays. That pass interference right before halftime. That was due to him not being afraid to cut it loose. I'll give it to him. He's not afraid to cut it loose. You know, he might not complete it, but he's gonna cut it through. If Arthur calls that play, he's ready and he's locked and loaded. But I'm not gonna be hard on him because I knew who he was prior to this season. You know, I know what plays he can make. I know what plays he couldn't make. And he played okay. He didn't play terrible. His numbers are decent. If you take away that one interception, he ended up with 2. But you take away that Cordero tip pass, he played decent. But again, I echo what Nate stated. You gotta be able to make plays in clutch times to be an NFL starting quarterback or just a good quarterback in the NFL. And while he kept us in the game, he helped us get back into the game. He couldn't make the play when it counted. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your numbers are. If you can't put up a W, then your days as starting quarterback could be limited.
You are so right about that. Let me go take some of these other comments. Quentin said the Rams are who they thought. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna hit that real quick, real short. If I'm the Rams, I'm not happy about that win because you almost blew a 25-point lead in your building. It took again a dumb execution down the stretch by the Falcons for you to escape with a win because you knows what the pressure would have been in that building had they lost that game the way that they were about to lose that game. So they definitely got some concerns that they really got to look into because for you to have that stout defense, you started getting absolutely toasted down the stretch in that game. And that's not going to be something to be proud of. Again, a win is a win, but that's not one of them games where you could go back and be like, oh, bad. Yeah, now the guy that you paid, Jalen Ramsey, made the play. However, you got to look at how that thing was starting to fall apart. It was 31-10. Matter of fact, we talked about 28-3 at one point. It was 31-10 with 12 minutes remaining in this ball game. Let's go to that part. They didn't score again. They didn't score again after a field goal attempt. They were up 31-10. So in that short period of time, the Falcons chipped away at that lead. So that's something to be really worried about if I'm the Rams. But again, credit to them winning the game. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I'm sure a lot of you Falcon fans that tune in are just like us. I don't look at the dub or the loss. I'm looking at long-term past that week because if they find themselves in that position again, they may not be so lucky to win that ball game.
I'm going to keep it short and simple. The Falcons let them off the hook. Did the Rams let the Falcons back into the game? They left the door open? Yes, they did. But the Falcons let them off the hook. If you go back and watch the last 6-7 minutes after that block punt for a touchdown, the Falcons' first block punt for a touchdown since 1990. Since that touchdown, you could see it in their faces. You remember 28-3? You could see it in the Falcons' faces late in that game. And you could see it in those Rams players' faces at the end of that game. Their mouths were like wide open. They were looking around like, what's going on? The Falcons let them off the hook. And I agree with Nate. Although they are the defending Super Bowl champions, if they didn't come back and win that game, the rest of the season would have been looking kind of murky at best for them.
You right. Let's see. He said it's time to start. Yeah, we definitely were talking about Desmond Ridder. He said starting like Tannehill and Tyson. Oh man, and I don't want that look either. Let's see. He also said, and now this I didn't know. I didn't know that Aaron Donald did not have a sack in the game. Now that's actually impressive. Did he not have a sack in the game? You checking the stats? If so, that is impressive.
He
That is
didn't have
very.
he didn't have a sack. He had one quarterback hit. He only had 2 tackles. He was in the backfield. Like his presence was made known, but yeah, he didn't get a sack in that game, and that's I think that's a testament to our development with the guys that we have on the offensive line.
Yes, sir. She said, I hate to hear this. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta's shopping for a new head coach next season. That's just my personal opinion. It really, this is a good, I'm glad you brought this point up because honestly, earlier when that game was out of pocket, the score was 28-3, 31-10. I was definitely coming on this air saying he don't have but a few more games remaining. But I will say this. His scheme works if he stopped coaching scared, if he stopped coaching conservative, and if he has the right quarterback in that backfield that's going to make the plays. You're on the right track with Marcus Mariota. I'm going to say it like this because what I'm trying to say is this. You're on the right track having a mobile quarterback, but you need a threat like that Desmond Ridder. Give him a shot, see what you need. Because the one reality of this situation is you, as Mike and them touched on, and shout out to our boy Jeremy, he was on the show last week, touched on, you now are looking at a potential chance of getting a quarterback next offseason. Don't know what's going to happen with Lamar in Baltimore. Who knows? That could possibly be an option. You're going to have the money to do it if you were to take that gamble. But the thing is, the scheme is the scheme is great offensively. Defensively, we might be looking for another defensive coordinator, and that's the God honest truth. Because the Falcons showed you they have as much talent. They have a lot of talent that's trying to break out and show themselves. We saw Troy Anderson, the second round pick, made that big block that set up nearly the comeback. So Lorenzo Carter got that touchdown on the recovery. He's also been in the backfield. We've seen flashes of Ebiketie. There are talented players on this roster that is out of position because Dean Pease keeps them out of position. He doesn't know what he want to run. He wants to run a 3-4, he wants to run a 4-3, he wants to run a 4-2-5, and whatever else he thinks about in that moment. And then he get on the national media and lie and say that he didn't do that. When every person that watched the games saw him do it. Just like I'm going to call him out on this. Mike, you probably saw the interview. He got up there and said that he was not in zone coverage the whole fourth quarter of the New Orleans Saints game. Sir, I was at the game. Everybody that was watching saw that zone coverage. Unless zone coverage changed, that was zone coverage. And again, I'm more so Arthur Smith do have things he need to work on, but I'm having more of an issue with Dean Pease right now. How do you feel about that comment right there?
Another thing that another player, Taquan Graham, we had a question, I think the previous week was about, do we think Taquan Graham would make an impact with this team? And we were like, a player that was selected that late in the draft, that burden shouldn't be on him. But he's been playing well. He had 2 quarterback hits today, and that led the team. So I'm impressed by his play. He's surprising me. But back to your comment, I think we forget, and I know it doesn't matter because the only thing that matters in the NFL is wins and losses. But Arthur Smith is 40 years old. He's the 5th youngest head coach in the NFL. And I think Sean McVay is still the youngest head coach at 36, 37. But I think people forget or they just ignore the fact that Sean McVay is an anomaly. He came into the league, at 33? And he's been amazing ever since. I always said Arthur Smith's going to have 3 years, depending on, because his teams do fight. That's one thing I'm going to give them. They fight. They don't quit like our previous regime. But these guys don't quit. Even last year, they had a lack of talent. This team was devoid of talent last year as a team that I've never seen in the NFL before. And we won 7 games. And we were in even more. So I'm not I don't believe Arthur Smith is on the hot seat. Now, if we don't win a game this year or we win 3 or 4 games, then, we can revisit this. But I agree with Nate. I was impressed by the defense last week against the Saints, but I have to go back and look at the film. but we're starting to revert back to Dan Quinn's defensive schemes and stuff. Like we're seeing receivers open by 10, 15 yards. And that's something that we saw at nauseum under Dan Quinn. And like I said, I have to go back and look at the film to see if it was a mistake on the players or the scheme just wasn't working. I know we didn't get much pressure the first 3 quarters of the game today. So I don't know what's going on with the defense right now, to be honest with you. I'll go back and look at the film, but right now, Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. I argue he's the best receiver in the NFL right now. But you shouldn't go from limiting him in the first, 20, 25 minutes, and then he just goes berserk because he's 15, 20 yards wide open. Like, go back and look. He's 20 yards wide open, and that's inexcusable, especially when we have corners like A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward. Like, I don't understand. A.J. hasn't really looked himself this year. I don't know what that's about. But I don't know if he's just going through some stuff right now with his mechanics. But defense is not looking good, and that's Dean Pease. I know Arthur got you out of retirement, but he could put you back in retirement.
Hey, you're right. But and another thing that I think is a challenge, and this is probably one of the things where it's kind of a learning curve for A.J. Terrell, is because he dealt with Michael Thomas last week. He dealt with Cooper this week. He got DK Metcalf next week. You got Amari Cooper the following week. You got that Buccaneers. He's going to get tested a lot this season. I don't know if y'all saw the stat line in the preseason when they showed all the receivers we're going to face this year. But the Falcons got a lot of elite receivers that we're going to be dealing with this year. Going to deal with Jamar Chase down the road. Going to deal with what was I trying to think? Of course, we got to deal with our receivers twice. Got to deal with the receivers in Carolina. Got to deal with that. DeAndre Hopkins, he'll be back by the time we see the Cardinals in January. So there's a lot of elite talent we're going to have to deal with. And A.J. Terrell is going to have to grow up one way or another this season. So, like you said, it's going to be interesting. Let's see. So what's going on, bro? He said time to put the rookie quarterback in. Yeah, I think everybody's kind of on that train. She said rebuild it. Yeah, I guess that's what we can call it. Josh said, dang, Matt Ryan. I forgot he don't play for the team. Man, I got to say this.
I wouldn't bring him up if I was you, because that's not going to help your argument.
I wouldn't bring Matt Ryan up today. That was if you all off topic saw the Colts Jaguars game, that was Matt Ryan's worst game in his career. That was his worst game ever. I've never seen him play that bad in my life. That game was awful. He's thrown more picks in other games, but if you watch that game from start to finish, that was awful. That was his worst game ever.
Through 2 games, he has 4 interceptions and 5 fumbles, 2 of which were lost.
0-1-1. Amy said Marcus is flashing. He can do things not red. I agree with this comment right here. I like how you put that, because that's the thing. He can get us, and that's been the Falcons' kryptonite for years. He can get us down the field, but inside the 20, we're out here running read ops like we're the Auburn Tigers. And I have to take that jab at him, because that's what you can think of when you look at that gadget crap that you saw in Auburn. That's exactly what I think when I'm seeing us with all this motion here, motion there. You hand it off, then he take the wrong angle, hand it off, you get a yard. Like, what is that benefiting you on? You can only do so much with that. How do you feel about that comment?
I honestly felt like that would be a strength for us this year, because in the past, when we had Matt Ryan, we struggled in the red zone. And I was thinking, we're adding a mobile quarterback. Maybe Arthur Smith was limited in his play calling last year, and now he's just going to feast in the red zone because he has somebody that can actually move. You can move him to the right, and you can divide the field in half, and he can dissect the defense. But we just haven't seen that, and we haven't seen Kyle Pitts. Where is Kyle Pitts? And I just don't understand. You have Drake London, who today has 5 receptions, 70 yards, in 2 straight games, the first rookie since Stephon Diggs. You got, as of right now, the offensive rookie of the year. And you have Kyle Pitts. And we can't do anything in the red zone. it's kind of reminiscent, I guess, last year and years prior on. You had Julio and Calvin Ridley, and we still couldn't do anything in the red zone. Like I don't get it, and it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating to everybody else, and I know it's frustrating to the players and the coaching staff when you have the talent, but man, and I'm not even mentioning Cordero Patterson. You know, you have another weapon. Like you have more weapons than most to get the job done in the red zone, and we can't do it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. Another comment he said in the O-line isn't bad going back to Mariota Stadium. Yes, this is probably the best I've seen the line in a couple years. And that's the issue that I have with Mariota. This reason why we're all talking about giving Ritter a shot. Because again, Ritter, to me, you're gonna have a better option than that as far as a passer. Because to be real with you guys, and this is coming from going to the week 1 game and even watching today, the Falcons are getting receivers open. Drake London is getting open. Kyle Pitts is getting open. But when you first thing you want to do is 1-2 run, that's not going to work. And for years, Falcon fans have wanted a mobile quarterback. We've been all screaming we want a mobile quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. But I want a dual threat mobile quarterback. I don't want a guy who's going to go out here and run for 100 yards and throw for 50 yards and we lose a game. We had Vic already. Let's get that out of the way. We had him back in the day. We're not going to do that no more. We need a quarterback that when it's come time to stand in that pocket, he got to make a play. He has to make a play. And that's the reason why right now, give Desmond Ritter a shot. Because at this point, if you potentially lose the Seattle game next week, which should be you can have a shot of winning that game next week. If you lose that game next week, you're 0-3. So at this point, you need to find out what you have. Because long term, you got to start looking at the fact you still got tough games remaining. We got the Bucks in a couple of weeks. We got the Bengals in a couple of weeks. We got the Niners who are 2-0 in a couple of weeks. They're 1-1 in a couple of weeks. So you need to start kind of having an idea of what you have as we get ready to hit that month of October.
Honestly, the Falcons have an opportunity to win 2 in a row. And I know people are saying, well, we're 0-2. You can't. Seattle is Seattle. Today they were in the red zone. You got Geno Smith. You've been pouring into him that he's the starting quarterback, that he's one of the leaders of your team. They were in the red zone today. Do you know what they did? They allowed their running back, Dallas, to throw a pass that was intercepted in the red zone. He threw 2 college passes his entire college career. You took the ball out of your quarterback's hand. What does that do to his psyche? You're telling him, the guy, are you going to take the ball out of Tom Brady's hand? Are you going to take the ball out of Josh Allen's hand and give it to a running back, a backup running back, to throw a pass on a trick play in the red zone? Seattle can be beaten, obviously. Yeah. And then we had the Browns. The Browns had I had to make sure they won the Falcons. The way they let the Jets come back and win today. Now the Jets are greatly improved. This is no disrespect to any team, but they had that game. They wasted a great game from Nick Chubb, who had 3 touchdowns. Who knows what the Browns do next week? But the Falcons can take care of business this week. They can go. They have the Browns at home. Fans need to show up and show out, especially if we win next week in Seattle. The Browns can be beaten. I believe that.
Yes, sir. I agree with you 100%. Let's see some of these other comments. We can get down some, so we can hit some of these folks. Marcus won't throw the ball more times. Yes, and that's our gripe with them as well. Ken, what's up, bro? Said Marcus ain't everybody's kind of. Oh man, thank you, AJ. Thank you for hitting this comment. The funniest thing is that the dude went for it on 4th down midfield in the first quarter, didn't run the ball. I said the same thing when he went for it on 4th down and 2 at the 50. I actually posted it on my Facebook. I'm like, this man went for 4th and 2 at the 50, but was scared to go for 4th and 1 with a 2-point lead. I didn't understand that. So, no, I agree with you 100%. DJ Antoine, what's up, bro? He said, good evening, good brothers. Go Bears. You guys got a big game tonight against the Packers. I'm looking forward to watching you guys in less than an hour. Let's see. They said, they're talking about the receiving corps. We're entire AFC North. That Washington trio. Oh, yeah, definitely can't take them out the equation.
I forgot about Dotson. So, I proclaimed Drake London the offensive rookie of the year. He got some competition with Dotson. So,
Dotson's playing well.
Let me put some respect on Dotson because he's looking like the real deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Q say we celebrating the comeback with. As funny as this sounds, there are situations where I feel like we possibly win the game with him back there. There are situations, but I just don't. I don't. It's rough, man. It's one of them things where it's like it's a trick. It's a slippery slope because you're gonna have a lot of people that's gonna say, man, if Bat would have been back there, we probably won the game. It's a tricky one. Julian, what's up, bro? I got to get you on here soon too. By the way, Marcus and Arthur aren't a good batch. I don't disagree with this. How you feel about that, Mike?
That's the first time I actually heard that. I feel like they complement each other well. I just think that. So here's my thing with Marcus Mariota. I didn't touch on it earlier. I made the comment that he's not afraid to cut it loose, especially on deep throws. The issue with Marcus is I don't think he's comfortable with his receivers because he's not. If you notice, even on that touchdown to Zacchaeus, he should have been cut that loose, but almost to the point where the defensive back almost got back into the play. I forgot who, Mark Sanchez, he literally said, throw it. He's open. Like 3 or 4 seconds before he actually threw it. So it's like, I don't know if he's comfortable with his receivers knowing where they're going to be at. And we're 2 games into the season. That should have been worked out during camp. Your chemistry with the receivers. So I think that's really the issue. He's not able to predict where the receivers are going to be. He doesn't know if they're going to sit because I forgot what play it was, but the receiver pointed towards the middle of the field like, hey, I'm sitting right here. There's a safety coming over the top on from this side. I'm sitting right here, so just throw it right here. And Marcus threw it a little bit towards the middle of the field. So it sounds like the chemistry is a little bit off, which is this week 2. Yeah, that should have been worked out prior to week 1. So I think Marcus, I think he's done a decent job. Like I said, he had a 68% completion percentage today, but he's just missing throws. And when he misses bad. It's like no in between. It's not like, oh, he just barely missed on a back shoulder throw. He's missing by 5 or 10 yards when he does miss. And that's something that needs to be worked out soon, because if he doesn't, I'm not even on the Desmond Ridder train to get him in the game right now. But if that continues, you don't have a choice because he's not giving you a chance to win.
You're right. And then to me, I feel like they, like you said, I feel like there are some chemistry issues with them too as well. But I also feel like when you're coming in a situation where a team drafted a rookie quarterback, it's hard to go out there and not perform well, because the reality is this: if the Falcons would have won both of those games, we wouldn't even be talking about Desmond Ridder at this point. He would be out. He would definitely not touch the field this season, except for walking on and off the field at intros. But anyways, he definitely could have solidified the QB1 position, and I don't think he's done that yet because you're not finishing. This was a second opportunity you had to finish. Even though you was coming from behind, still you had a chance to finish a game. This was your second opportunity against a really good team that's going to be in the playoffs this year. Again, the Saints, there's another team that you could have finished, and you could have potentially, now looking at their situation, they could have been 0-2 at this point. But, that's where you earn those opportunities. And to me, like you said, I agree with you as far as that too, that I don't think he trusts his receivers yet. And to be honest, and this is coming from a fan base that's seen Julio, Roddy, Ridley, all these receivers. To me, this group fits Arthur Smith's scheme. With the right quarterback that can stay in that pocket and throw the ball, they fit it because you're seeing Cordero Hodge making a couple of nice catches. Zacchaeus toasted. Let me throw this out here, and I'm sure if everybody that's watching, you probably remember this. Zacchaeus toasted Jalen Ramsey on a play to where he had to get a PI early in the game because Zacchaeus, he did it to Lattimore last week. So you got guys who will go out there and make plays. You just got to put the ball where they need to be at. And as Mike said, I remember Mark Sanchez making the same exact comment on that touchdown as well because, again, I'm sure most of you watching the game at home is like, get that ball out of there. What are you doing? And he got it out late. But again, these are the things that you got to be able to do because the competition is going to get tougher down the road. So you had an opportunity to show it today.
And one more thing, I think me and Jeremy talked about it a week and a half ago. I don't see Ritter getting in right now because I think I predicted that unless things go haywire, I don't see him even getting an opportunity until like week 8 or 9 because we go through a stretch where we play the Panthers twice in 3 weeks, and we also play the Bears. And I was like, if things are not going the way they, if they're not going as planned, you get them in during that stretch because if you don't get them in during that stretch, I don't know when you get them in because that's when you get towards the back end of the schedule where you have the Saints, where you have the Steelers. You see where I'm going with this? So if things are going south, you don't need to put him in an impossible situation because then you're going to get to a place where obviously if he's in, that means Mariota didn't do his job and we're struggling, which means we're going to have an opportunity to have a top 3 or 4 pick, which means you get into that Bryce Young, CJ Stroud area, and you're going to have a fan base that kind of turns on him like, oh, we need to get Bryce or we need to get CJ. I don't want to put him in that situation to put him in there against those playoff contenders and he doesn't look well. Because if he doesn't look well during his 5 or 6 game interview, the fan base is going to turn on him because he's not going to look good, and that's not fair to him. So if you do want to go to Ritter, I say get him in during that stretch where we play the Panthers twice in 3 weeks and the Bears. That'll be the softest part of the schedule to get him in for him to have some success.
I like that. I like that point that you made. That's a great point that you made. Let me hit these other comments. Q said, yikes, never. I hated Joey Harrington, man. I ain't even gonna agree with that. Oh Lord, that gave me anxiety seeing that name again. Listen, what's up, buddy? What's going on, bro? It's good to see you, man. Good to see you checking in.
Thanks for checking in.
Julian said there's too many weapons on this team. The O-line is solid. We lay hard. That's the issue. That is the frustrating reason of us being 0-2. Because, like Mike mentioned earlier, they won 7 games with less talent last season. These guys played well enough where a good to great team is 2-0 right now. But that's the issue. They're not finishing. And again, as this is being pointed out, you are starting to see flashes of the draft class. As Mike mentioned, Taquan Graham was a part of 21 draft class. We saw him get 2 quarterback hits. Troy Anderson, the rookie, had the block punt. Lorenzo Carter, the free agent signing, had the fumble recover for a touchdown. And Bichetti's getting after the quarterback. D'Angelo Malone drew a holding penalty on the drives because he was about to get after Matthew Stafford. You're seeing pieces really develop in Atlanta, but the problem is starting at the top, which is the head coach and the coaching staff in Marcus Mariota. He has to get into form because unlike previous years where we were just completely bad for God knows what reason, this group wants to win. You can see it, they want to win. But the thing is, it's all about execution. They're not executing down the stretch. And again, the offensive line is playing well enough for a quarterback to stand in that pocket to win the ball game. Marcus Mariota should have his decision making is questionable at times. And that's the problem that's going on right now. It's not so much, the Falcons don't have we don't have talent. Now, in the first half of this game, we're just overpowered at the time. This is a team that's, like Mike mentioned earlier, coming off a Super Bowl win, coming off a bad loss at home against the Bills. This is a team that's showing for me, I'm sure everyone else probably kind of felt the same way. I didn't have us competing in this ball game because to me, when you're coming off winning a Super Bowl, this is your time against the lowly Falcons to say, this is why we won a Super Bowl last year. And for 3.5 quarters, they looked like the team that won the Super Bowl. But again, they looked like, I think they took that Falcon drink down the stretch, because in that second half, you like a team that just completely fell apart. And again, I don't know how that's going to look for them long term. They got the win, but there's a concern now. You gave up 27 today to the Falcons. You gave up over 30 last week to Buffalo. It's starting to become a concern, which was the concern I had for the Rams entering the season, not having a Von Miller no more. Guys are getting older on that team. Bobby Wagner is not Von Miller. I'm sorry. We ain't going to do that. Everybody outside of Jalen Ramsey is basically, you can pick on them. So, again, the Rams are showing weaknesses in this team. Thank God for Cooper Kupp, because, I mean, if you don't have Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson show out today, this could have possibly been a Falcon win. How you feel about that, Mike?
Well, I wanted to speak on this real quick. The Cardinals just had a walk-off fumble recovery for a touchdown against the Raiders. I bring that up because, before the season started, we said the NFC West, they wouldn't get 3 teams in. I think if somebody's going to get left out this year. I think they're going to beat each other up. We saw what the Rams looked like today. We saw what they looked like against the elite Bills team. Trey Lance is out for the year. Jimmy G's now the starting quarterback in San Francisco. We play these teams. We play all of these teams. We didn't win today against the Rams, but we're gonna have a say-so in who gets into the playoffs in that division. And the NFL is crazy. I think the Cardinals are now 1-1. The Rams are 1-1. I'm not sure what the 49ers record is today.
They're 1-1.
1-1. I think all those teams are 1-1. The Seahawks are 1-1. Think about that. The Falcons are going to have these division titles determine who's going to get into the playoffs. The Falcons are going to have a say-so. You got to have some pride in that. And like I said, it's a long season. We got to figure this out. I think we showed some flashes on defense today. The defense only allowed 2.5 rushes per carry today. The defensive line played pretty decent because last week, Alvin Kamara was kind of banged up. I think he had 9 rushes for 43 yards. I think that was like 4.6 yards per carry. Mark Ingram was deal with Mark Ingram. I think Taysom Hill was the only one that had a huge run. But this defensive line is becoming what we thought potentially would be a weakness. It's looking like a strength right now.
Yeah, and I went ahead and got the stats up for you too, by the way, just to kind of show everybody what you were saying. But this is the box score for today. And as you guys see, as Mike was mentioning earlier, this is the numbers. Mariota was nearly at 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 3 sacks. Stafford got sacked once. He had 272, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now, this is the stat line. Now, the Rams did a good job against the run. However, despite that, the Falcons outrushed the Rams.
And then
last week, outrushed the Rams in this game. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming.
Last week, we had a 100-yard rusher against the Saints, who they don't allow those. I think that was the first one in like 2 or 3 years, maybe even longer. So I remember games in previous years where we had 36 rushing yards, 58 rushing yards, 63. To have 100 yards against the Saints last week and then 90 this week against Aaron Donald and that defensive line, hey, we're trying to find some positives to keep y'all, keep everybody's morale up. But that's a positive to think about where we are. We're close to having a balanced offense, and we haven't had that in years.
That is so true. And as you all can see, the receiving totals. Drake London had 8 for 86 in the touchdown. Drake London is showing why we picked him number 8. Excuse me. As our first round pick. I'm sitting here thinking outside the box. But Cordero Hodge had 2 for 57. Zacchaeus had a touchdown. Kyle Pitts, as Mike mentioned, we got to get Kyle Pitts more involved. Hopefully, there's something that's going to be showing as the weeks go later in the year. As far as the Rams, Cooper Kupp did what Cooper Kupp does best: 11 catches for $106 and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee was 7 for 71. Allen Robinson was 4 for 53. So again, their big play receivers showed up for the Rams, and the Falcons hung it there the best way they could. They got to get some more production from that receiving core that falls back on Mariota, of course.
Allen Robinson actually had a touchdown that was called back.
Sure did.
I don't know, because they said the booth called, rung down because they had a player that looked injured. I think it was AJ Terrell, but the whistle blew like 3 seconds after the play was done. So the Falcons really got bailed out on that because he had the second touchdown of the game.
So as you see, Mariota had that fumble at the end. Dalman had a fumble. Algier and Darren Hall both recovered big fumbles. Cooper Kupp had a fumble in the game. Let's go to defensive stats. AJ Terrell had 9 total. He had 9 total tackles. This is some of the stat lines. Bobby Wagner had that sack early in the game. Hollins had that sack. Adonijah, who's another draft pick from last year's draft class, got a sack he got the sack on Matthew Stafford in this game. But as you see, a lot of guys were able to log tackles for the team. As Mike mentioned, Taquan Graham had 4 tackles today. As you can see, our guys are they're making plays. So it's some positives that are being seen. But again, it comes down to we got to finish games now. They've got to finish games now. But got to ask you this, Mike, as we head into this, as we get ready to wrap this up and get ready for next week, what are you looking for as far as the matchup against Seattle?
From what I saw today, I didn't get the chance to see a lot of their game, but I saw that DK Metcalf might have been a little banged up. I think it might have been like a finger issue, but I'm not sure if he actually left the game or he just took a series off. But I'm looking forward to the our corner matchup with him if he plays and Lockett. Because I mentioned earlier, AJ Terrell hasn't played. He hasn't taken that superstar leap that I thought he would. He's already a star. He's already one of the top 10 corners in the league as far as I'm concerned. But he hasn't taken that next step to where he can shut down. Like, it's hard. It's hard for a corner to shut down anybody, let alone a star receiver. But he's locked down top receivers for 2-3 quarters. But he always has that 1, 10, 15-minute stretch where he lets them get the best of them. And when they get the best of them, I'm not talking about yardage. I'm talking about scores. So I'm looking for AJ Terrell to have a complete game to where he matches up with whoever the Seattle's number 1 receiver is, and he locks them up the entire game. Keeps them out of the end zone. Because right now, last week, that's what hurt us. Michael Thomas was silent for 45 minutes. But it was the last 3 minutes where when he was matched up with AJ Terrell, he got the best of us. And this week with Cooper Kupp, I understand AJ Terrell wasn't on Cooper Kupp because they moved Cooper Kupp around the entire field. But when he was on him, he wasn't – like I said, I know it's difficult for a corner to shut down anybody, but we have to have some type of consistency for over the stretch of a game because, like I said, you can shut somebody down for 3 quarters, but when you get down to crunch time, you got to be able to get a stop. And as of recently, AJ Terrell hasn't been able to do that. And that goes back to also the pass rush. Pass rush has to help out the secondary. And we didn't do that over the first 3 quarters. We started to get a little bit more pressure during the 4th quarter, but like last week during the 4th quarter, Dean P said that we didn't stop sending pressure. We did, Dean. It was obvious. So that's what I'm looking forward to for this matchup this week. It's on the defensive side of the ball. AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward matched up against DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
I agree with that. I love that point that you made. I don't have anything different on that one because that's the same thing I would have said as well. But yeah, as you all saw, Falcons nearly pulled a wild comeback off. It was a valiant effort by the Falcons. So everybody, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Mike, you got anything you got to say before we head out?
It's week 3 coming up. I'm going to go out and say it. It's a must win. You're going in facing a team that is very beatable, a team that's not expected to do much this year, a team with Geno Smith as a quarterback, although he has played well. This is a game that you must win. Last year, we did a really solid job against beating teams that we should beat or beating teams that had no aspirations of making the playoffs because they just didn't have the talent. So I'm counting on Arthur Smith to develop some type of game plan with the coaching staff. I'm counting on the players to execute. We've let 2 slip away. We lost one that we shouldn't have lost, and we lost one that we probably shouldn't even been in the game. But we had an opportunity to win, and we lost that opportunity. Next week, we got to get it done. On paper, I believe we have more talent than Seattle. You know, we got to get it done. Geno Smith, you have to get some type of pass rush to impact the passing lanes because he will turn the ball over. If you can keep the ball out of the playmaker's hands, you got a chance. That defense is a solid defense, but that defense is no better than the Rams. It's no better than the Saints. So if you can move the ball up and down the field on those 2 defenses, you better be able to move the ball on against the Seahawks because that's what it's going to take to win this game.
I agree with that 100%. I like how you put that in. Honestly, like Mike said earlier, we need to win this game. You want to come back week 4 in Atlanta with that crowd ready to try to get to 500 to get to 2-2 because as we mentioned earlier, the Browns lost a close game at home against the Jets. So you want to take advantage of that home field advantage. And that starts by winning this upcoming week at Seattle. So that's going to be one of those things we're going to be looking forward to. Of course, me and Mike going to get back on here. We're going to do a preview. We haven't got a chance to do a preview just yet. So we're going to do one leading up to that Seattle game. And until next time, this is All In with Nate. And everybody have a good week. And let's look forward to the Packers and Bears. But again, Falcons lost a close game. I hate it, but hey, these guys fought. Salute to the Falcons. One step at a time, guys. But until then, everybody have a good night.
See y'all later.